Oh no, this is not okay. It's time to stop. It's time to stop.
Buildup of nationalism means intense loyalty and devotion to one nation. Intense nationalism can also be one of the following causes of going to war: militarism, or whatever that is. Philosophy or system that puts greater importance on military power. Alliances, central powers such as Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, and the Ottoman Empire. Oh, and I just found out Allied powers such as Serbia, Russia, France, United Kingdom, and Italy. And don't forget Belgium and the US. Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated along with his wife, Sophie. The assassination was by Gilvero Princip on June 28, 1914. Seeing this as an attack from Russia. Soon after, Austria-Hungary launched an attack on Serbia. This led to peace collapse among European nations. 1 week later, World War I began. As you can see from this map, it shows the Triple Alliance, Central Powers, and neutral countries. Neutral means that they weren't in the war throughout the whole entirety. For example, you see Spain on the map, and it's neutral because it didn't enter World War I or wasn't for either side. The Battle of Marin. This was the first battle where ratio interceptions came into play and were used to bring down the German military. From this battle between the French on the east and north sides of Paris, World War I. Event recorded on September 1914.
Here come Dad Boy.
On May 7th, 1915, less than a year after World War I, 1914 through 18 erupted across Europe. A German U-boat torpedoed and sank the RMS Lusitania, a British ocean liner en route from New York to Liverpool, England. Of the more than 1,900 passengers and crew members on board, more than 1,100 perished, including more than 120 Americans. Nearly 2 years later would pass before the United States formally entered World War I.
On-time percentage, 12%.
Right.
But the sinking of the Lusitania played a significant role in turning public opinion against Germany, both the United States and across the board. For this next slide, I am going to introduce a new person, Siri. Go ahead, Siri, read it.
Thanks, Brandon will now read. This World War I siege stemmed from German General Erich von Falkenhayn's edict to elicit major bloodshed from the French defense of the fortress complex around Verdun. German forces advanced quickly in February 1916, claiming Fort Douaumont and Fort Vaux after brutal subterranean melees. Despite coming within 2 miles of Verdun Cathedral, the Germans called off their offensive in mid-July, and Falkenhayn was relieved of his position. The French retook their forts and pushed back the line, and by the time their forces ground to a halt in December, both sides were left with more than 600,000 casualties.
That was really lovely, Siri. Everybody give her a hand. She deserves an applause, and yeah. Throughout this battle, it started on February 21st, 1916, and ended on December 18th, 1916. The Battle of Solomon, also known as Solomon Offense, was one of the largest battles of the First World War, fought between July 1st and November 1st, 1916, near Solomon River in France. It was also one of the bloodiest military battles in history. On the first day alone, the British suffered more than 57,000 casualties. By the end of the campaign, the Allies and the Central Powers would lose more than 1.5 million men. Yikes. That's terrible. Most historians agree that involvement in World War I was indecisible by 1917, but the march to war was no doubt accelerated by the notorious letter penned by German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann. On January 16, 1917, British code breakers intercepted an encrypted message from Zimmermann himself, intended for Hitchcock Estrad, the German ambassador to Mexico. The missive gave the ambassador a now famous set of instructions. If the neutral United States entered the war on the side of the Allies, von Hitchcock was to approach a Mexican president, who was offered to forge a secret wartime alliance. The Germans would prove military and financial support for a Mexican attack on the United States, and in exchange, Mexico would free annexed lost territory in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. In addition, von Echtord told the U.S. to use Mexicans as to go between the entire Japanese Empire to join Germany's cause. So this basically intercepted a major sideswipe attack, and it kind of stopped Mexico from being their ally.
Hello, Ivanikov Ivanovich here with a brand new product that's sure to sweep the market. The Ivanikov 9000. The Ivanikov 9000 is the best oven to ever be created.
Two revolutions. The first of which, in February, March New Style, overthrew the imperial government, and the second of which, in November, placed the Brooks Belts in power. By 1917, the bond between the Tsar and most of the Russian people have been broken. Governmental corruption and inefficiency were rampant. The Tsar's recreational policies included the occasional defiant faction, even to moderate elements. The Russian Empire and many ethnic minorities grew increasingly restive under Russians' demonstration. But the government efficient prosecutions of World War I that finally proved the challenge to the old regime could not meet. Ill-equipped and poorly led Russian armies suffered catastrophic losses in campaigns after campaign against German armies. This made war revolutions inevitable in two ways. It showed Russia was no longer a military match for nations of Central and Western Europe, and it hopelessly disturbed the economy. On April 6, 1917, 2 days after the U.S. Senate votes 82-6 to declare war against Germany, the U.S. House of Representatives endorsed the decision by the vote of 373 to 50, and the United States formally enters the First World War. About time. Kill. When the World War I erupted in 1914, President Woodrow Wilson pledged neutrality for the United States, a position favored by mass majority of Americans. However, Britain, America's closest trading partner, was in desperate need of help, and throughout all that was happening in Europe, and what happened to Latvica, the U.S. decided and bravely fighted boldly to enter the First World War. The Battle of Agrenon Forest. Where? Verdun sector, immediately north and northwest of the town of Verdun. When? September 26th through November 11th, 1918. AEF units participating. U.S. First Army commanded by General John J. Pershing until October 16th, and then late Lieutenant General Hunter Liggett. Opposing forces, approximately 40 German divisions from the army groups of Crown Prince and General Max Karl von Gallwitz participated in the battle, with the largest contribution by the Fifth Army of a group of Gallwitz commanded by General George von G. Martwitz. Memorable for being the biggest operation and victory of American expedition force in World War I.
An armistice is a formal agreement of warring parties to stop fighting. It is not necessarily the end of a war, since it may constitute only a cessation of hostilities while an attempt is made to negotiate a lasting peace. It is derived from the Latin arma, meaning arms, as in weapons, and stadium, meaning a stopping.
Credit card bills. Well, I knew this was coming. Let's see what the damage is. Only $10,000. That's not so bad. I'll just subtract it from today's profit. And there's no money in here.